She pointed to the door and yelled, "You're not welcome here." That day, I didn't argue, I didn't cry. I simply reached into my purse, pulled out the house keys, and dropped them into her manicured hand. She smiled, but what she didn't know was that walking away was part of my plan. Before we continue, please write in the comments which country you're watching this video from. Enjoy the story. When I first bought that house 20 years ago, it was my dream. A 2-story home with white shutters and a wraparound porch in a quiet, peaceful neighborhood in upstate New York. I poured every penny of my teaching salary and every ounce of my love into that place. My late husband and I raised our son Daniel. There, every corner held memories. From scraped knees on the driveway to Sunday pancakes in the kitchen, that house was our life. Daniel was my only child, smart, kind, a little shy, and the light of my life. He grew up, went to college, and fell in love with a girl named Amanda. The first time I met her, she smiled wide, but her eyes didn't match. Cold, calculating. I felt something tighten in my chest. A quiet alarm, but I ignored it. They're young, I told myself. Maybe I'm just being protective. They married within a year. From the moment Amanda became my daughter-in-law, things began to shift. Subtle at first, she insisted I knock before entering my own home. I lived on the second floor. They took the master downstairs. She started changing the furniture, repainting walls without asking. I would wake up to find the living room rearranged, or family photos removed from the shelves. "The house looks cluttered," she'd say, barely concealing her distaste. "We're just trying to modernize it." I bit my tongue. Again and again, then came the dinners. Amanda would cook something new, something trendy, quinoa, this kale, that, and if I brought my casserole or pot roast, she'd raise an eyebrow and say, "Oh, we're not really doing that kind of food anymore." Daniel would laugh awkwardly. He never defended me, just sat there, sipping his wine. They both had high-paying tech jobs. I had retired 2 years earlier after teaching for 35 years. I didn't have much, but I didn't need much either. I lived simply, quietly. I stayed out of their way, but somehow, that wasn't enough for Amanda. One morning, I came down to the kitchen. Amanda was already there, arms crossed, eyes sharp. "We need to talk," she said. My stomach turned. She told me that she and Daniel needed more space, that I should consider other living options, like a retirement community, or maybe staying with friends. I asked, "Are you asking me to leave my own home?" She smiled. "No one's asking. It's just, you're not welcome here anymore." That's when Daniel walked in. He didn't say a word, just stood there, staring at the floor. I couldn't believe it. My son, my flesh and blood, silent while his wife kicked me out. I looked at them both. I didn't scream. I didn't beg. I reached into my purse, pulled out the house keys, and held them out. Amanda's eyebrows raised. She took them from my hand, a victorious smirk spreading across her face. I turned, picked up my coat from the hanger, and walked out. But what Amanda didn't know, what neither of them knew, was that I still held the title deed. You see, I had only allowed them to live there. I never transferred the ownership. The house still legally belonged to me, and I had been paying attention. Every insult, every slight, every time Amanda laughed behind my back or whispered things to Daniel when she thought I wasn't listening. This wasn't over. I walked straight to my lawyer's office. The cold air hit my face as I walked away from my own front door. Amanda and Daniel's laughter echoed behind me as they closed it. They thought they had won, that they'd finally gotten rid of the old woman who didn't fit their modern world, but they forgot something very important. I'm not foolish, and I never stopped watching. For years, I had felt the shift in Daniel, how Amanda pulled him away from me, how he stopped checking in like he used to, how my calls became interruptions rather than lifelines. The warning signs had been there, I just didn't want to see them. But now, I had nothing left to lose. No more pretending. No more playing the nice mother-in-law. As I stepped onto the sidewalk, my heart wasn't heavy. It was steady, focused, because in my purse, next to where those keys used to be, was a folder. Inside it, copies of the house deed, bank transactions, and something even more valuable. My lawyer's business card. 2 weeks before Amanda kicked me out, I had started preparing. I could feel the tension building. She'd begun leaving brochures for senior communities on my nightstand. And Daniel had asked if I ever considered living somewhere with people my age. Subtle, but cruel. So I went to my attorney, Peter Caldwell. Peter had been our family lawyer for over 25 years. He'd helped us draft the will when my husband passed, helped with the refinancing, and more importantly, he knew every single detail about that house. He remembered how I'd paid for it, brick by brick, month after month. The mortgage had always been in my name. Even when Daniel and Amanda moved in, I had never signed the house over. You still legally own 100% of that property, Peter had said. Unless you transferred the deed or created a living trust with them on it, and you didn't. So, when I arrived at his office after Amanda's stunt, he wasn't surprised. They finally did it, huh? He asked, offering me a seat. I nodded, calm as ever. She said, I wasn't welcome in my own home. Peter raised an eyebrow. Let's fix that. What we did next wasn't rash. It was precise, legal, and entirely within my rights. Peter helped me draft a formal eviction notice. Not a screaming match. Not revenge in the emotional sense. Just cold, hard paperwork delivered to their doorstep by a uniformed officer the very next day. But that wasn't all. You see, while Amanda had been redecorating, throwing away my heirlooms, and whispering that I was just taking up space, she made a crucial mistake. She started renting out the guest room on Airbnb without my consent. And guess what? That's illegal when you're not the property owner. Even worse, she'd been collecting rent money, logging it into her own personal account. Peter's eyes lit up when I told him, we're not just looking at an eviction now. We're looking at potential civil damages. By the next afternoon, Amanda received the papers. I wasn't there to see her reaction, but Peter's assistant said she heard yelling, loud enough to echo across the street. Daniel called me that evening. I let it ring 4 times before answering. Mum, what is this? Legal documents, sweetheart, I said softly. Read them carefully. You're kicking us out. No, I corrected. I'm reclaiming what's mine. There was silence on the line. Then, a frustrated sigh. Amanda says this is cruel. That you're just trying to get back at her. I couldn't help but laugh, not bitterly, but truthfully. She kicked me out of my own home, Daniel, and you let her. He didn't argue. Instead, he said, I don't know what to do. And for the first time in a long time, I didn't feel sad when I responded. I felt clear. You'll figure it out. Then I hung up, but I wasn't done yet. 2 days later, I visited the house, my house, with a real estate agent. I wanted a fresh start, somewhere warm, quieter, with a porch swing and morning sun. The agent was kind, patient, and shocked. When I told her the situation, You're brave, she said. No, I replied. I'm just done being quiet. Meanwhile, Amanda and Daniel scrambled. I heard from Peter that they tried to file a counterclaim, saying I had gifted them the house. But they had no paperwork, no proof, nothing but entitlement and arrogance. Legally, they were on thin ice. Personally, they were about to fall through it. 3 weeks later, I stood on the sidewalk in front of my house as the movers carried boxes out. Amanda wore sunglasses, even though it was cloudy. Daniel didn't say a word. He avoided my eyes. Amanda, however, couldn't resist. You're throwing your family away over bricks and wood. I tilted my head. You threw me out over power and pride. So, who really started this? She didn't reply. That the movers loaded the last box, and they drove off. And just like that, the house was mine again, empty, silent, but peaceful. I didn't move back in. I didn't want to live in memories. I sold the house 3 months later, got a great price. And with the money, I bought a cozy cottage 2 states away, near a lake. I joined a reading club, started painting again, and for the first time in years, I exhaled. Amanda lost the game. She never knew I was playing. And Daniel. He texts now and then. Small talk, photos of the dog. I still love him, but I don't miss him. Some people don't realize the value of love until it packs up and walks out the door. It had been 6 months since I left the house. 6 months since Amanda's smug little speech at the door. 6 months since I walked away with dignity. And 6 months since I made the quiet decision to change everything. Now I was waking up to the soft sound of birds outside my new bedroom window. The cottage I bought near Lake Marion was small but perfect. My neighbor, a sweet widow named June, had introduced me to a watercolor class and a walking group. Every Thursday, we met at the coffee shop on Main Street and talked about everything. From life to loss, to lemon muffins, life was good. But I knew the storm wasn't over, because Daniel was unraveling. It started with a message, not a call, just a short late-night text. "Mum, I'm sorry, Amanda left." I sat up in bed, rereading it under the glow of my lamp. Amanda left. Just like that. The next morning, my phone rang. It was Daniel. I almost didn't pick up. I had spent so many nights crying over his silence, his betrayal. But curiosity won. "Mom," he began, his voice raspy, tired. She took everything. I stayed silent. She drained the accounts, maxed out the credit cards. I found out she'd been lying about everything. The Airbnb money, the furniture expenses, even her job. She got fired months ago but kept pretending she was still working. He let out a bitter laugh. She was using me, and she was seeing someone else. There it was. The inevitable fall. "I'm sorry, Daniel," I said softly. "Truly." There was a long pause. "I wish I had listened to you. I let her twist everything. I thought you were, I don't know, controlling, in the way. But you were just trying to protect us." That stung, because I was trying to protect them. I had swallowed years of Amanda's jabs and Daniel's growing distance. Just to keep peace, and now peace had shattered. "I'm at a motel," he said. She even took the car. I didn't know what to say. Sympathy swelled in my chest. This was my child, after all, but I couldn't ignore the bitterness tucked beneath it. The pain of standing alone when I needed him. Of being told, "You're not welcome here." So I asked the only question that mattered. "What do you want from me, Daniel?" He was quiet, then, just to talk. "To fix things, please." Agreed to meet him in a public place. I wasn't ready to reopen old wounds too quickly. We met at a diner halfway between my cottage and his motel. He looked thinner, older. The light in his eyes, once so full of certainty, was dim. He held my hands across the table. "Mom," he said, "I let Amanda turn me into someone I'm not. I let her twist my mind until I didn't even recognize myself. I don't know how. I got here, but I don't want to stay here." Tears welled in his eyes, and for the first time in years, I saw my son again, the boy who used to build pillow forts and ask me for one more bedtime story. But words weren't enough. I needed proof, change, growth. "I'm not angry anymore," I said quietly. "But forgiveness isn't a light switch, it takes time." He nodded, wiping his eyes. "I'll earn it, I promise." 2 weeks passed. Then a letter arrived at my cottage, handwritten. On simple paper, it was from Amanda. "I suppose you're enjoying your little victory," it began. "Daniel's miserable, and you must be thrilled. But just know this, you ruined a family." I read it once. Then again, there was no apology, no regret, just blame. "I was the one who pushed him to be better," she continued. "You always babied him. That's why he's weak now. I gave him direction. You gave him guilt." I folded the letter carefully and placed it in my desk drawer. Alongside old birthday cards and my husband's last note to me before he passed, Amanda's words didn't shake me. If anything, they made one thing clear. She had never loved Daniel, not really. She loved control. A month later, something strange happened. Peter, my lawyer, called. "I think you need to come into the office," he said. "There's something you should see." I arrived the next morning, greeted by Peter's solemn face. "We received a formal request from a law firm in Chicago," he said. "Amanda is suing you." I blinked. "Suing me, for what?" "She claims you wrongfully evicted her and emotionally damaged her in the process." I almost laughed. "She kicked me out." "I know, Peter said calmly. But she's filed for emotional damages. Wants a settlement. $100,000. My mouth went dry. She doesn't have a case, he continued. She's grasping. But we'll have to fight it. I took a deep breath. I'm not giving her a cent. Peter smiled. Good. That's what I hoped you'd say. And so the next chapter began. Not with doors slamming or insults flung, but with depositions, sworn statements, and evidence stacked like bricks. Daniel agreed to testify. He brought emails, text messages, even voice recordings, proof that Amanda had manipulated the situation, lied about finances, and treated me like an unwanted relic. The court date was set for 6 weeks later, and I was ready, because this time, I wasn't standing alone. The courtroom was smaller than I expected, just a few rows of benches, some uncomfortable chairs, and an air of seriousness that made my palms sweat. I sat quietly beside my attorney, Peter, watching Amanda from across the aisle. She looked nothing like the woman who once ruled over my house with arrogant flair. Gone were the designer handbags, the glossy nails, the endless supply of expensive scarves. She wore a plain grey suit and a frown that seemed permanently etched into her face. Her new lawyer, a young man with slicked-back hair and too much cologne, kept whispering in her ear. She didn't glance my way, even once. But Daniel did. He was sitting behind me, his hand lightly resting on my shoulder. Whatever happens, he whispered, you're not alone this time. The judge walked in, and the trial began. Amanda's side went first. Her lawyer painted a picture of a fragile woman, emotionally tormented by her hostile mother-in-law. He described an elderly woman who refused to leave the house, shouted at Amanda in front of her child, and created a toxic atmosphere that forced Amanda to act in self-defense by requesting her to vacate. It was a masterclass in fiction. I watched as Amanda faked dabbing tears from her eyes with a tissue. Her voice cracked as she described my controlling behavior, saying she often had to hide in her room to escape the mental pressure. Wanted to scream, but I didn't. Peter leaned over. Let her talk. The lies won't hold. Then it was our turn. Peter stood and calmly began presenting evidence. Texts where Amanda called me a emails where she talked about finally getting rid of the old woman. Bank statements showing how she drained Daniel's joint account. And finally, voice messages. In one, Amanda could be heard laughing with a friend, saying, I told her she wasn't welcome here. And you should have seen her face. It was perfect. The courtroom was silent. Then Daniel took the stand. He looked at Amanda, not with hate, but with sadness. I was blind, he said. She twisted things, made me believe my mother was the problem, but it was her. She poisoned our home, used me, and when she was done, she walked away without a second thought. Amanda stared at him like she didn't know who he was. Then came the final blow. Peter pulled out a small folder. Inside it were pictures, not of me, not of Daniel, but of Amanda, with another man. On vacations, in restaurants, even outside a courthouse in Las Vegas. Amanda, Peter said, isn't it true you secretly married this man 3 weeks after leaving Daniel? She went pale. Her lawyer objected, but the damage was done. The judge allowed the evidence. Amanda's hands shook. She looked furious, cornered. The truth was unraveling, thread by thread, and she knew it. During a recess, Daniel and I stepped outside into the hallway. The air was tense, but lighter than before. You didn't have to go this far, I told him gently. He shook his head. I did. You deserved the truth to come out. You deserved better from both of us. I smiled faintly. I just wanted my family. He looked down. We'll build a new one. One based on honesty this time. Back in the courtroom, Amanda's lawyer did everything he could to regain control, argued technicalities, questioned the validity of the photos, and claimed emotional duress. But it was like trying to plug holes in a sinking ship. The judge finally turned to Amanda. Mrs. Clark, he said firmly, your conduct, both in your relationship and during this trial, has been appalling. This lawsuit was a clear attempt at manipulation and financial gain. The court finds no merit in your claims and hereby dismisses the case with prejudice. Amanda looked stunned. And, the judge continued, considering the overwhelming evidence of intentional deceit, the court orders that you pay the defendant's legal fees in full. She gasped, so did her lawyer. Peter gave me a small nod, and I breathed. Really breathed for the first time in what felt like years. Outside the courthouse, reporters had begun to gather. Apparently, word had gotten out about a woman suing her ex-mother-in-law for emotional damage, and losing spectacularly. We ignored them. Daniel walked me to my car. "Do you want to come to dinner sometime?" he asked. "Just, you and me." I paused. "I'd like that." He smiled. "Max would love to see you too. He misses his grandma." Tears welled in my eyes. I had missed that boy so much. I had missed my family. We hugged a long, quiet, healing hug, and for once, the silence wasn't heavy. It was peaceful, but just when I thought things were finally settling, I got a call. It was from a woman named Claire, Amanda's ex-best friend. "I know this is strange," she said, "but Amanda used to talk about you. A lot, and not in a good way. I think you deserve to know everything." "What do you mean?" I asked. "She didn't just leave you with emotional pain. There's something else. Something about the house." My stomach dropped. "What about the house?" "She tried to sell it right before she kicked you out." "What?" "She forged documents. I saw the emails. She was going to flip the property under a fake name and run. I didn't say anything before, because, well, I was afraid of her. But after that trial, I don't want to be part of her lies anymore." My hands shook as I held the phone. Amanda had tried to steal the house before throwing me out. Claire offered to send everything, emails, texts, even voice memos, and she did. I sat on my couch, reading through it all, messages filled with venom, greed, and cold calculation. Amanda never wanted me gone for peace, she wanted me gone for profit. I forwarded everything to Peter. He called within an hour. "We have enough to press criminal charges," he said. "Forgery, fraud, attempted real estate theft." My heart beat faster. "I'll let you decide," he added. "Do you want to go after her?" I stared out the window, watching the lake shimmer in the golden light of evening. I had walked away once with grace, but now I had a choice. And this time, I wasn't going to walk away silently. 2 weeks later, Amanda was arrested. It didn't happen in some dramatic movie-style raid, though I admit, part of me hoped it would. No, it was quiet. Simple. She was picking Max up from school. When the police showed up with a warrant in hand and cuffs ready, I wasn't there, but I got the call minutes later from Claire. "They got her," she said, her voice shaky but triumphant. She looked shocked, like she never thought it'd catch up to her. The charges: forgery, attempted fraud, conspiracy to commit theft, and obstruction of justice. Enough to ruin her reputation, her freedom, and her carefully crafted image of innocence. I didn't smile. I didn't celebrate. I just sat there for a long time, because the truth is, even when you're the one who's right, even when justice is finally on your side, it still hurts that things got this far. Daniel came over that night. He brought Max. I hadn't seen that little boy in months, and when he ran through the door, yelling, "Grandma," I thought my heart might break all over again. But this time, it was in the best way possible. He threw his arms around me and buried his face in my shoulder. "Missed you so much," he whispered. I held him tighter. "I missed you more, sweetheart." We played board games, baked cookies, and for the first time in years, laughter echoed through the house again. Daniel watched us from the kitchen, eyes glossy. Later, after Max fell asleep on the couch, Daniel and I sat on the porch under the stars. "I still don't know how I didn't see it," he admitted. "How blind I was." "You were in love," I said. "And love can be loud. Loud enough to drown out the whispers of truth." He nodded slowly. "I should have protected you." "You're protecting me now," I said. "That's what matters." The trial against Amanda didn't last long, with the digital trail Claire provided and Amanda's forged signature on property documents. There wasn't much left for her to argue. Her new lawyer begged for a deal. She pled guilty to reduced charges and was sentenced to 2 years probation, mandatory community service, and a sizable restitution payment to me. Every penny she stole, she'd have to repay. But the real punishment, she lost custody of Max. The court declared her unfit, emotionally manipulative, financially reckless, and morally negligent. Daniel was awarded full custody, and Amanda was granted limited supervised visitation until she completed therapy and could prove she was no longer a threat to her son. I wasn't there when they told her, but Daniel was. She didn't even cry. He told me, she just stared straight ahead, like she couldn't believe it was happening. Some part of me felt sad for her, for the woman she could have been, the daughter-in-law I hoped to love like my own. But she made her choices. She drew the lines in the sand, and she tried to bury me under them. 1 month after the trial, Daniel and Max officially moved in with me, not out of pity or guilt, but because we wanted it. We needed each other. We made a new routine: breakfast together, morning school drop-offs, evening walks by the lake. I reclaimed the garden Amanda once ordered to be paved over. Daniel helped me replant it with herbs, sunflowers, and rose bushes. Max named the yellow one Victory. Fitting. One evening, I was sorting through old photo albums in the attic when I found something unexpected. A small, crumpled piece of notebook paper, a letter from Amanda. It was dated just a few days before she kicked me out. It read, "I know you hate me. I know you think I'm the villain, but you'll never understand what it's like to feel invisible in your own home. He talks to you more than me. He listens to you more than me. I wanted a life where I mattered. I thought removing you would give me that. I was wrong. I don't expect forgiveness, but I hope one day you'll understand." I sat with the letter in my lap for a long time. She was right about one thing I didn't understand. I still don't, but for a brief moment, I saw a flash of her humanity in those words. The hurt underneath the cruelty, the insecurity beneath the rage. But understanding doesn't mean forgetting, and it certainly doesn't mean excusing. A few weeks later, I received a card in the mail. No return address. Inside was a simple sentence, written in the same handwriting from that attic letter. "I hope Max never sees me the way you now do." I didn't reply. Amanda's chapter in my life was closed. Months passed. Seasons changed. Our family settled into something beautifully imperfect. One Sunday morning, as we were setting the table for brunch, Max looked up and said, "Grandma, I'm glad you didn't leave forever." I smiled, tears stinging my eyes. "So am I, sweetie. So am I, and that's how I lost a house, but gained something so much more. My freedom, my peace, my family. Amanda tried to take everything from me, my home, my son, even my dignity, but, in the end, all she did was set me free from her lies. I walked away, not because I was weak, but because I was strong enough to let go of a toxic love and demand something better. And that strength, it built the home I live in now, not just a house made of walls and bricks, but a home filled with second chances, warm meals, and honest love. A home no one can ever kick me out of again.